Hey there, welcome to Professor Pearl, a YouTube channel about knitting. I'm Nicole, and today I'm going to do my first book review on this channel. I have a lot of knitting books, and I recently, which I'm going to show you, acquired a new knitting book that I really like. And yeah, so I've wanted to try doing book reviews. So this is my first, and let me know if you like it, or if you'd like to see more of them, or if there's any specific books you'd like me to share about. So today I'm going to be sharing about 52 weeks of easy knits, produced by Laine Publishing. I have looked and admired many of the 52 weeks from the collection. There's 52 weeks of socks, 52 weeks of shawls. I don't have any of those books, but I do now have 52 weeks of easy knits. So this made me think when I got this, I was like, what's an easy knit? Is it something that's beginner friendly? Is that what it means? And I think it can mean that. But after looking through these knitting projects that are in this book, I started to really kind of think about what does easy mean? And I think it can be beginner friendly, but it's also more than that. So I'd love to know what you think is an easy knit. But I think it's this thing that we get in flow with. And so it's a knit that we can relax and find a flow with. And it seems to be what the knits in this are about. And there's 52 of them, thus 52 weeks of easy knits. And the opening contents, it shows the list of all 52. And there's a little red dot next to some of them. And that red dot says it's super easy. And I would say what they're calling super easy would be beginner friendly patterns, which is really cool. And so there's some that don't have a red dot. That doesn't mean a beginner can't do them, but I would say maybe it's more adventurous beginner. And it's something that I think there's something for everyone in this book, whether you're a brand new knitter or you're a seasoned knitter that's been knitting your entire life. There's something for everybody in here. And just because something is an easy knit doesn't mean that there's not a lot of technique in it, or that it doesn't take a lot of skill or something like this. So I think this word easy means something else than beginner, but there are a lot of beginner friendly patterns in here. So I just thought I would first share a price point on this book. So I was looking today, and I would say a lot of online stores are selling it for between $55 to $56 US. However, I'm from the Pacific Northwest near Portland, Oregon, and there's a yarn store in Portland, Oregon, Ritual Dyes, that's selling it for $52, which I thought was quite cute because it's 52 weeks of easy knits. And that makes some easy math too. So 52 knits, $52 means that every one of these patterns is $1 only, which seems to be an incredible deal, really. And you think about how much work goes into designing and testing and writing a pattern, the tech editing, all that. And so basically each one of these patterns was essentially $1. So that's amazing. I obviously can't show you all 52 knits, but I thought I would highlight my favorites from here. And what's so interesting is I guess that's almost every knitting YouTuber out there could do a review of this, because what we would pick as our favorites would be so different, right? And so I'm just gonna go in order. So my first favorite is the second pattern, which is called Rider, and it's a slip over. Rider is a warm oversized vest with high splits at the sides. It is knitted with large needles and 3 strands of yarn, a quick and rewarding project. So So here's a little side view of it. If I made it, I don't know if I'd make it quite so long in the back, but I do desire to have a slip over in my life. I really love knitting garments. It's one of the things that brings me the biggest joy, and I don't have something like this in my wardrobe, so I like the idea of creating something like this, like kind of quickly, 3 strands of yarn. So my next one I'm going to share is called Audrey. It's the 6th pattern in the book. At first, a few increases, then some straightforward knitting, and finally a bunch of blissful decreases. It is as simple as that to make this headband, which has echoes from the 1950s. Okay, there we go. So I love this, and I don't think if I knit this, I would make this as a headband for me. I don't think I would wear this as a headband, but I was thinking I could maybe do it exactly the same or modify it to be a touch longer to be a scarf. As an alternative to the ever popular Sophie scarf, I've made the Sophie scarf and I wear it a lot, and I would like another one. And so I was thinking this would be great. Other thing I was thinking would be really great about this is recently I was teaching one of my former students how to knit. We met for coffee and I was teaching her how to knit, and we were doing a dishcloth. And just for like a young person, I don't know if every young person is super interested in knitting a dishcloth as their first project. And so I was thinking this could be a really great first project. So if I meet with her again, I may suggest us working on this. Okay, my next favorite is called Diamond Twill. This warm and lightweight vest is knitted in Icelandic unspun plitalopi yarn. It features a beautiful yet simple to knit diamond pattern, which is created with just knit and purl stitches. This one really caught my eye, partly because I have a lot of plitalopi right now, though I wouldn't knit the plitalopi I have with this. The Icelandic yarn I have is hot pink, and I think the hot pink you wouldn't see these texture pieces that well. And so I definitely would want it to be like a pale pink or a light gray or cream or something. But because I've been thinking about plitalopi, that design stood out to me. And I just mentioned I wanted to slip over a vest, and I just think that that's super classic. And in real life, when I'm not creating content for my YouTube channel, I'm a professor. So I was just thinking I could just visualize myself wearing that, like to teach classes, to give a presentation. Like I can see myself really wearing that a lot. Okay, this one, True Stripes. This is the 13th pattern in the book. This fun sweater invites you to play with colors, and it features only basic techniques. Don't be afraid of seaming either. It's much easier than you may think. When I show it to you, you might be surprised that there's seaming involved, but I'll talk about that a little bit. All right, so here's this really cozy sweater that's squishy garter. I love garter. I think this is what drew my eye, is the garter sweater, and with pockets, and I love stripes. The seaming is in the arms. Maybe I can kind of show it. I don't know the design feature why. Perhaps it's to give the arms some structure so it doesn't stretch out so much. So you can see a little bit of seaming here. I think if you weren't into that, you could just skip that and knit in the round. The pro to knitting it flat and seaming is there's no purling. That could be the other reason why they're seaming, is maybe the designer was like, I don't want to purl, and just started knitting the sleeves back and forth. And seaming can be easier. Like, I don't know if you've ever done the mattress stitch or seamed up your knitting. Sometimes it's magic. It can be if you're into it. And this is done in a very cohesive palette that's bright. And so you certainly could purchase yarn to be like that. But I was also thinking, like, because it's so many stripes, it's like one of those projects that you could maybe like grab from your collection and make a kind of unexpected sweater you weren't expecting to make. I was thinking about the idea of like, what would it be like to use differing weights in this? I know that this pattern suggests using all the same weight, but sometimes, you know, maybe a light, like maybe a heavy sport and a light DK in your collection, you could mix. Maybe it could work out. I've been kind of thinking about that. Okay, the next sweater is a cardigan that I want to show, and I would say this is my absolute favorite, my number one in the entire book, and it's Lullaby. Large needles and garter stitch, yes please. This comfy cardigan is knit top down with shorter sleeves for a lighter look. The yes please to the big needles and garter stitches, like I could not relate more to that. It is exactly how I feel. And the way this looks is like just totally my style too. Here's a picture of it. And I just could not love this more. Okay, the other picture of it isn't that great to kind of get a view of it, but I know that this is my, like, this is my sweater. I have some yarn in my collection, like some piece lace that I want to make a wave of change jacket with, and so I do feel like I could use that for this. I probably won't because I do really want to knit a wave of change jacket. I have some like other thicker yarn from Imperial Yarns that's rustic. So I don't know, I've been thinking like maybe, I don't know if it's thick enough, so I'm thinking maybe I should do a swatch. I don't know what kind of drape it would give me compared to this one, but I do think that this is kind of sweater that you could have it really drapey, or it could be more structured and look really good too. So anyway, I'm very, very into Lullaby. Oh, this one's called Super Easy too. Okay, the next one, I don't know if I would ever make this, but it did draw my eye. It's called Comfy. Comfy is a relaxed pullover in slips stitch ribbing. In cuff and hem edges in contrasting color add that special something. The chart has only slipped stitches, knits, and purls. So it's one of these sweaters that's classic, but has like a little modern edge, like that little pop. But you can do that on any sweater, it doesn't have to be the sweater, but it just, I think it's gorgeous. I think I'm sharing it, but I don't know if I'd ever knit it. I am not a big fan of slipping stitches. It's one of the reasons why I don't like mosaic knitting. It's such a strange thing to not like to do in knitting, but if I have to repeatedly slip stitches, I'm not a huge fan of it. So I don't know if this sweater is something I will ever make, but I think it's gorgeous. And like if I did ever make it, I would be making it because I want that sweater, that product. It's gorgeous. The next sweater I'm going to share is Rattan. This cropped sweater is knit in simple stockinette stitch. It comes alive with a texture boucle yarn. The V-neck and the hem are worked in a different yarn in a slipped stitch motif. So I'm actually knitting a sweater right now in boucle yarn, not this sweater. And I can't believe how many Instagram messages I've been receiving that have been like along the lines of, I'm always looking for a pattern for the boucle yarn. Like I'm looking for a pattern for the boucle yarn. So this stood out to me because of that. Like, here's a sweater pattern knit in boucle yarn. It's really pretty and super chic. I love a beret. If you are a prior viewer to this channel, you know I love berets. And so I do have a beret on here to show. I'll talk about that later, but even the beret model is wearing this sweater, and I can really see a beret paired with that. Very cool boucle sweater. It's cropped, very cute V. I like the contrast. The only part that made me have a hesitation is I wasn't sure about how I felt about this edging or the ribbing. That's the slip stitch sort of, it almost looks like a basket or something. Initially I was like, I don't know if I like that. That was my initial reaction. But after looking at it over and over, it's like grown on me where now I'm like, now I like it. And so I think that's fascinating how at first I just was like, I don't know. And like now I truly like it. Like, how does that happen? But maybe because it's so unique, it's not something you're used to seeing. And maybe that's why I was like, I don't know. So, yeah. Oh, here, you can see the model wearing a different version of the sweater with the beret. Like, that look is everything right there. Like that. I have a black knit beret too, so very cool. So there's a beret in here, as I mentioned, and there's a lot of like kind of basics, like not basics in like classics rather. There's a lot of classics in here. Like there's a beret, there's a sock pattern, like any kind of like a classic knitted item you can think of is in here. Okay, my last sweater I'm going to show is like the stunner, and not just for me, it's the cover sweater. And it's Veman, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Veman is a boxy sweater with a slightly cropped hem. You can knit it in a single color as a gray version on the neck spread, or use scrap yarns and make it as colorful as you want. I think it's so cool. Basically, this version here, you're holding a DK yarn, so the same DK yarn through all, and then you're taking your scrap fingering yarn and you're just like marling it in. And so it creates a very cohesive stripe pattern that's like so cool. If you're not into that, like if that's not your thing, you're like, I am not into that. This is the shape of the sweater without scraps. And so you can see you can just take a totally different look on it. So those are my favorite patterns. My top two would be the one I just showed you, the Veman. Like, I love that. Love that so much. And then the Lullaby, the cardigan. That's a garter cardigan. That would probably be my top two sweaters. In terms of accessories, I would say my top accessory is probably the Audrey headband. I really like that a lot. Just really like that a lot. So yeah, there's so many fun things in here. I love the smell of this book. I love the feel of it. It's so bright. So 52 weeks of easy knits. If you liked any of the content today, please consider liking and subscribing. And I'm really interested in if you'd like to see more book reviews. I have a lot of knitting books in my collection I'd love to share. Or if you did like this and you have a specific book you're interested in, please let me know. Happy knitting!